Alright, now in my opinion, The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live was a really good show, but the ending was very disappointing, and the main reason for that is that they killed Major General Beale. But there's still a way for them to make the story of the Walking Dead universe interesting going forward. And that's if they make Mason Beale, the son of Major General Beale, a much more prominent character in the Walking Dead universe going forward. So in today's video, I'm just going to be discussing about that. How could Mason Beale appear in the Walking Dead universe in the future, and how he could become the next big villain or the next big CRM leader. So please stay tuned. And now, before we actually get into the video, I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And we have a goal in mind for 5,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to be part of that journey to 5,000 subscribers, please like, share, and subscribe. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. And now this idea of Mason Beale becoming the next big bad or like the next big villain of the Walking Dead universe has been buzzing around my mind since the finale of The Ones Who Live, and I think that this is a perfect way for them to bring back the CRM and to potentially have a season 2 for The Ones Who Live. And now, as we all know, Mason Beale is the son of Major General Beale, and he did appear in World Beyond, but he did not show up in The Ones Who Live, which was very odd. I mean, even Major General Beale did not have that many scenes in The Ones Who Live, which was very disappointing. But what if Major General Beale's death was a setup towards something bigger? What I mean by that is that Mason Beale could go after Rick as revenge for the death of his father. And of course, this trope is very common in movies and TV shows, and it does seem a little bit like, stale when it comes to storytelling and stuff like that. But I think it would be very interesting if Mason Beale goes after Rick and the Commonwealth and the rest of the group as revenge for Rick killing Major General Beale. And I think like the seeds of this storyline was planted. It's because Mason Beale did not die in World Beyond, nor he showed up in The Ones Who Live. And being Major General Beale's son and not showing up in The Ones Who Live is pretty weird. And of course, like, the actor is not that big of Mason Beale, and like, he's just like a teenager. Like in World Beyond didn't do that great as well. But I think that they could make the character much more fleshed out. They could make him have real motivation to go after Rick, and potentially we could have Rick's comic death be done on screen, and Mason Beale could be the one to kill Rick Grimes. And I know you all may be thinking that, oh yeah, like that's very stupid, right? And Rick shouldn't die in the Walking Dead universe. And I totally agree with that, right? I am one of those people that don't want to see Rick Grimes die on screen. And in my opinion, his death in the comics was pretty stupid enough, but it was very realistic. And just because Rick is the main character of The Walking Dead, it doesn't mean that he can't have a normal death, like just being shot, right? I mean, at the end of the day, The Walking Dead is a show about death, right? Like main characters dying left and right and just very surprising deaths. It's because all of them are human and all of them are survivalists. So it doesn't make sense if Rick just survives through the whole thing. And of course, like the ending of The Ones Who Live was pretty out there enough, where Rick and Michonne alone, quote unquote, took down the CRM. So I think that if they want to make the story more realistic, if they want to have real motivation behind Mason Beale, and also if they want to have all these characters come together, and if they don't want to waste the CRM storyline that they have been building up towards since season 8 of The Walking Dead, I think that a good way to revive the CRM story is to make Mason Beale the new head of the CRM, making him think that, I'm the rightful owner of the CRM, right? My dad was the leader of the CRM, so that should make me the new leader of the CRM. And because he died, right? And of course the CRM has like over 500,000 people in their community, so not everybody is against Major General Beale's ideals. Maybe there are some people, some high-ranking officers that totally agree with Major General Beale, and they want the CRM to be like it was before, like, just only taking in bees, only taking in workers, and killing off the A's. And Mason Beale being the son of Major General Beale, it totally makes sense that he has those ideals as well. So in my opinion, like, I think that they should make Mason Beale a much more prominent character in the Walking Dead universe. And just because there is really no way for them to have a crossover series, and I know I did discuss this in my previous videos, that maybe there's like a big horde of walkers, that of course they did mention that in The Ones Who Live, like the finale of The Ones Who Live, Major General Beale himself did reveal to Rick that there are huge hordes around the world, and it's just a matter of time before they take over the world and everyone is dead, which is a very good basis for the crossover spin-off or whatever crossover event they want to do. And it's a good way to go back to the roots of The Walking Dead, just the main group versus walkers. But like, as a viewer and as a fan of The Walking Dead, it seems pretty odd to me that they have been building the CRM up since season 8 of The Walking Dead, and just Rick and Michonne in a spin-off with 6 episodes in it, they were able to quote-unquote take down the CRM. And of course the CRM aren't destroyed, right? The CRM it's not like they were just wiped off the face of the earth. The CRM is still the thing, but they quote-unquote turned good. Now, like, of course, if the CRM turned good, and if they're accepting A's and B's alike, there is going to be a conflict of power. It's just going to happen. And again, The Walking Dead is realistic. It's like, of course, it's not realistic in the way that, zombies are taking over the world and they're biting people, but it's realistic in a way where people are fighting over for power, people could die at any moment, and there is conflict no matter what. There is politics, and we saw that in season 11 of The Walking Dead. And if the Commonwealth could be so corrupt, if they could have such horrible people in power at the Commonwealth, of course that's when Pamela Milton and Lance Hornsby were around. So what makes us think that the CRM still doesn't have horrible people in it? Even if they did quote-unquote turn good, there are things that are still going on behind the scenes, which still echoes the old CRM, where Major General Beale was still the leader of it. And I think that Mason Beale is perfect for that role. I think Mason Beale is perfect for showing his authority and to show that this is my right. This being the leader of the CRM is my right. It's because my dad had it, and I knew everything that my dad knew, and I could lead the CRM to be bigger. The first thing to do is to take out the rivaling communities right off the bat. And of course he would know that Rick killed Major General Beale, and how would he know that? I'm not too sure. Maybe word of mouth or like something like that. But they're gonna make it in a way where Mason Beale does figure out that Rick did kill Major General Beale. So he would go after the Commonwealth first, which is very, very likely, because the Commonwealth, as theorized, has connections to the CRM. And the CRM most likely have files on the Commonwealth. They have files on Lance Hornsby and Pamela Milton. And with all of that data in place, with all of that information in place, Mason Beale could use that to track down Rick, to find Rick, and to go at war with him. And now The Walking Dead still has to be The Walking Dead. And of course people hate this trope and this whole formula of The Walking Dead, where it's just a community versus another community, and then Rick's group wins the war and then they take over the other community, or they do something like that and just ends up with Rick's group winning. They could use that same formula in this arc as well. And why wouldn't they use it? It's because it's going to be a quote-unquote CRM war, the Commonwealth versus the CRM. And I know that a lot of people don't like the whole political aspect of The Walking Dead when it came to season 11 and season 8 of The Walking Dead, and also the whole dudes in suits, like soldiers and stuff like that in season 11 of The Walking Dead. And some people don't like the whole CRM story in general. People think that it's way too out there, and how could they have helicopters and stuff like that. But with the CRM still established, you might as well do something with it. You might as well have a grand finale for this universe. And with the CRM war going on, I think that, of course, as the formula goes, Rick's group wins against the CRM. Maybe they find some other communities that are like the Commonwealth, they all join together, they take down the CRM, but they choose not to kill Mason Beale, like how they did with Pamela Milton in season 11 of The Walking Dead, and how they did with Negan. Maybe Rick thinks that, okay, I killed his dad, and of course, like in this whole crossover series or this spin-off or whatever they're gonna do, Rick's gonna have more character development like how he did in season 8 of The Walking Dead, and he ends up putting Mason Beale in jail or something like that. He just lets him live somehow. And then this is where you put a big twist on the story. This is where you go into the whole comic accurate aspect of it, and like you just have Mason Beale killing Rick, right? And how this would happen is that maybe Rick takes over the CRM as well. The people of the CRM support Rick and his ideals, like how they did in the conclusion of the Commonwealth arc in the comics, right? Rick gives his whole speech about we're not the Walking Dead, and like he binds everyone together, he gets everyone on his side. And of course, with these communities being so big, right, the Commonwealth, some other communities, and the CRM, Rick has most of the population in the palm of his hands, and that's in a good way, because Rick is seen as an ideal leader, right? That is Rick's whole character. He is a very good leader, so of course people would agree with him. The people in the CRM also would agree with his mentality, and they would go up against Mason Beale, which hurts his ego, which basically makes him think that he failed his father or something like that, and like Rick has no right to take the CRM for himself. That's where you have Mason Beale going all Sebastian on Rick, and he finds a moment to kill Rick. And as much as we all don't like RJ, as much as we all don't like these like new characters and stuff like that, RJ could potentially fill in that role as Carl did in the comics, where he's the one to put down Rick, and like he's the one that first sees Rick as a walker, and he has to put his own dad down. That would be a good way to close off the Walking Dead saga, like Rick Grimes' whole story, and that's only because they did it in the comics. You got to find some way to implement Rick's death in there, and you got to give this character a proper conclusion. Now, another way I could see this, instead of RJ filling in that role that Carl did, maybe Daryl. Maybe Daryl's the one to put down Rick, and that's because Daryl had that whole story of looking for Rick. I mean, he ended up in France just looking for Rick, and it would be such an emotional scene to have Daryl find Rick as a walker and ultimately put him down. And of course, I think I would like that much better if Daryl was the one to put down Rick, if Rick were to die. And first of all, I don't want Rick to die, but if they were to go with this story of the whole CRM war and kind of mirroring that whole Commonwealth arc, because of course, as we all know, the Commonwealth is much bigger in the comics than it was in the show, and the reason why it was so small in the show, it wasn't as big as it was in the comics, that's because of course it wasn't the end of The Walking Dead. They couldn't go above and beyond with it, and the CRM existed, so they had to make the Commonwealth look small in comparison to the CRM. But if you already have the CRM, if you already have these other communities, it's a really, really huge like thing, right? So having that being the finale of The Walking Dead, the universe, and more specifically Rick Grimes' character, I think that would be perfect to have Daryl fill in that role of Carl, of him putting down Rick, and they do some sort of like 10 years later, like some sort of time jump, right? Time skip. They have a statue of Rick, and maybe Michonne is the new leader of the CRM and the Commonwealth, or like maybe Daryl. I don't really see Daryl being the leader of a massive community. I see Michonne being the leader, or I could probably see them going full comic accurate and just making Maggie the leader of all of it, and putting Mason Beale into jail, or maybe have Daryl kill him off. Who knows? But like, and that's of course if they don't kill off Daryl by this point, which I don't see them doing because Daryl is a huge moneymaker. But that's how I see Mason Beale coming back for his revenge on Rick Grimes. But yeah, that's it for today's video. I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. And we have a goal in mind for 5,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to be part of that journey to 5,000 subscribers, please like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much for watching.